And we are live tonight with show number 11 on EdReach, Learning ReDesigned. We are here tonight giving educators a voice, a big voice. You've reached our 11th episode. This show is one of many different shows that is on EdReach, where tonight we have a guest, Alex, who's joining us from Interiors for Business. Some people know it as IFB. And they have a warehouse and a showroom that's located just west of Chicago, Illinois, in Batavia. We're going to look at how furniture and the future of education is changing and how the design of furniture is just a piece of the puzzle in our changing world. Alex, will you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thanks for inviting me. My name is Alex Carsi. I work with IFB, as you mentioned. To briefly explain kind of what I do, I work as a consultant in both the corporate and education worlds, and I've helped people create the environments that they're envisioning and looking to achieve in their classrooms and throughout their school. I've been with IFB for about 6 years now.
Awesome. And we'll find out a little bit more about what that job looks like. So Jen, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi, I'm Jen Smith, and I'm a creative innovative specialist in a middle school in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and I adore my position. I'm super lucky. I have a different schedule every single day. I work with all the teachers from, the PE teachers to health teachers to FACS teachers to LA teachers, and it's really great. I have 9 years in the classroom as a first and second grade teacher. I also taught French for a little, and this is my fifth year as a tech coach.
Awesome. And I am Amy Lamberti, and I am from a K-8 school district in the northern suburbs of Chicago. I am officially called a 21st century innovation learning coach, which basically is I get to help teachers and students and parents redesign and rethink lessons and learning. I was in the classroom for 11 years, and this is my third year as a tech coach. So like Jen, I love what I do, and every day I enjoy going to work because it's a passion, not work, which is a good success. Not everybody can say that. So
totally.
Well, let's kind of run right into our show for tonight. The first question that we kind of wanted to talk to you about, Alex, was can you kind of talk about what you see the future of education to be, like where furniture fits in and how design kind of fits in, and what would you say? What would you say when pitching it to stakeholders?
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, but it's because it's really hard to tell exactly where the future of education is going. I'm in quite a bit of schools, districts, private and public, so forth, and there's quite a bit of trends. Most people are doing like a one-to-one type program. A lot of schools are experimenting with like flipped classroom type models and so forth. So where the future is going or where it's going to end up is it's different every day, but it's always going forward. And with that no true direction, that just means that the furniture really has to be flexible on a day-to-day basis and for the long term. With technology evolving, learning styles changing, it needs to be flexible. When pitching to stakeholders or talking with stakeholders, I really try to emphasize the importance of furniture. Some people kind of overlook it. Besides for staff or in the building itself, furniture is one of a school's largest assets. And I really can't stress enough the importance of the furniture itself and how people really need to sit down, think about what their end goal is and how they want their space to function in order to move forward. Once we do that, we can put together a plan and a long-term goal and help schools and districts achieve that. In the past, like I mentioned, furniture was kind of an afterthought where people purchased out of catalogs and there was really no method to the madness, and you kind of get these hodgepodge classrooms full of all different pieces and components and with no goal in mind. So it's refreshing to see that trend is going away, and now we're really sitting down and putting a plan together.
So Alex, you mentioned that you've worked for IFB for 6 years. Have you seen, like, Amy and I are sort of fresh into this. I mean, we're probably 2 years into really knowing the value of really designing your learning space and, like you're talking about, having a plan for what you want to achieve in that space and how the furniture fits in. But if you, like, in 6 years, do you feel like 6 years ago, were people talking about it, or I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, Up until recently, I just got in. Well, not just. The past 2 years, I've been with. I've been targeting schools K through 12. I've done some higher education, and I was in corporate first. So in the past 2 years, um, I've been starting to see the trends of people putting that plan together and so forth. And but 6 years ago, I was still in a lot of schools, and I think even 6 years ago was really budget based. It was just how inexpensive and how can we fit 32 kids into this room, and that was really it. And you were sticking with your, are we going with a two-person classroom table or individual student desks, and that was about as many options as people were choosing from. From there was price. So I think now that learning's changing and the technology and just how kids are learning is changing so drastically that it's now falling into place within the classroom and the furniture and so forth. So definitely over the past 2 years, it's been a lot more, visible than probably 6 years ago.
So
I liked your point about the magazines, shopping out of catalogs. Jen and I said at the time how, as schools we get those catalogs and those magazines that get put into our mailboxes, and we pick those up and we're like, oh, that looks good, and that looks good, and you're right, it's a hodgepodge, and it's not about maybe what the kids like, but what the teachers like, or what the administration likes, or the person who's in charge of the budget.
Always the cost.
Yeah, the cost, because it fits the salary or it fits the line item.
Budget for that time.
Budget. Yeah. So, like, what kind of projects have you currently been working on? Like, can you kind of give us a recap of what things right now? Like, how many schools are you currently working with, and what's going on?
I work with a handful of schools. Our office is located, our showroom is located out in the west suburbs in Batavia, actually. Most people are familiar with the Aurora area or St. Charles, but we're right around the same area. And I work with schools from out here all the way west out to Freeport, all the way up to the northwest suburbs. So a variety of schools, elementary on up, like I said, through higher education. A couple that I'm working on right now, some of the big ones that come to mind. I'm working on a STEM building, which has been a pretty interesting one for me. The reason is we're accommodating ages 3rd grade all the way up through higher education in the same space. So we've had to come up with furniture that can easily be adjusted to different sized individuals. Obviously, it's kind of, you got to have a one-size-fits-all type solution for that space. And then it's one of the most flexible spaces that I've ever worked on. A lot of times, we're putting some flexible chairs into a space or some flexible tables and so forth, but everything is flexible in the space, from their student chairs, their student desks, teachers' desks, teacher storage areas, lounge furniture, even the lab tables. They're large, heavy-duty epoxy resin surfaces with power and vacuum lines and so forth, and they're on industrial casters, so they can be disconnected and moved around and pulled in the lab, out of the lab, and put in pods and so forth. So that's been a fun one. Really supports that. We always say there's like a walk, skip, and a run, like levels of progressiveness with how schools want to pick their furniture, and they're doing more of a run than when most people were getting to skip or walk. But from there, the types of projects, libraries, learning resource or learning media centers, whatever people want to call them these days, is definitely my most popular project. I think because they can bite off that piece of the puzzle and not have to, they're not revamping all their classrooms all at one time. They can kind of implement a new culture and a new learning and teaching style in one central area. But those definitely are my most popular projects right now. Almost everyone I talk to is, we've got this library project coming up, or this, and no two are the same. Some, they're kind of just turning into like a training type environment where you're putting some flexible tables, some flexible chairs in that can be put in a classroom style. They can put in pods, and even the staff can come use them. And then you got other ones that they want like that Starbucks feel, where you might have standing height surfaces for kids to work at, cafe tables, and then lounge height. And it's just kind of a touchdown area for people to go to. So libraries are definitely my most popular. I'm seeing a handful of kind of test pilot or experimental type areas. Some kind of classrooms of the future, if you will, that some people are piloting, where they'll pick one room, throw some cool technology in it, and put some really progressive furniture, and allow various different grade levels to use it, different teachers, different subjects. and pilot it for maybe a year and get feedback to see what they kind of want to implement throughout the rest of their space down the road. So those are. I even have one school that's looking to do like a Shark Tank. I don't know if you've seen the show Shark Tank,
Yeah.
but so the classroom's going to function on a daily basis, just like a classroom for note taking and learning. And then it's where they'll learn like the marketing and the business side of things, and then it's going to evolve to like a lab or a shop where they're actually going to build prototypes. So the surfaces have to be durable, the furniture has to be pretty durable, and then it's going to be a presentation space where they're going to pitch their products to local business owners and try and actually get funding to make it go into action. So a lot of kind of cool experimental test areas is the next one, and then the last type of project we're working on is teacher work areas. It kind of goes unthought of initially, but you're getting younger teachers in the schools now, and teachers are wanting to become a lot more collaborative as just like the students. A lot of teachers aren't fixed to one classroom anymore. They're rotating classrooms, so they don't have that designated desk that they used to have to store all their papers and stuff. So we're seeing these kind of common collaborative touchdown/storage areas for teachers to do their grading and their continuing education and so forth. So.
Oh, how exciting! That's so fun.
Exciting.
That just nails it on the head of what we need to be doing and knowing that it's being done, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We first met you and saw you at ICE, which is the Illinois Computing Educators Conference, the statewide Illinois conference, and seeing the excitement, in teachers' faces as they got to sit in some of the samples that was in the venue hall, in the exhibit hall, which was really, really cool. And Jen and I knew that we're going to see a pop. Like now's the time where schools are going, okay, it's time to do things differently, and it's time to start looking at the furniture, and it sounds like you guys are busy and doing some really cool things, which is awesome. Do you guys get a lot of feedback once you finish projects like this from like the students and what they say about it? So once you finish a job, you go back and look at the room and look at the project, what would you say, the kids' reaction is?
Yeah, so unlike my corporate customers, students love change. They embrace it quite a bit. So even from the moment I wheel a sample in the door, it's not unusual for me to hear about 5 whispering positive comments out of a student's mouth before I'm even through the office, And I think that's because a lot of stuff, it's more colorful, it's different, it's softer, it's not so cold and harsh.
Institutional.
The institutional as the furniture used to be, exactly. And from then, if we come back and visit a site after they've been using it for quite a bit, we always get positive feedback from the students. They love it. If anything, the negative feedback might be, we wish we had more of this new item that you gave us, or more of these, or I wish my other classroom had this type stuff in it. And one of the most popular subjects that comes up after the installations is students with ADD. I'm extremely ADD myself, always have been. School was tough for me with those fixed tablet desks with 6 legs and the bar on the one side you can't get out. But
my school totally still has those.
Yeah, that was like prison for me. So
right.
And as is many other kids. So we're creating these environments that support a variety of learning styles. So whether it's like I said, a standing height where a kid can kind of pace, back and forth, or a lounge height where they can, touch down and really focus, or even in groups where they're in pods and they can converse with their friends. So that's kind of some of our biggest feedback is, from how it affects the learning is really supporting all the different types of learning styles. The only other pushback we tend to really get actually comes from the teachers.
I'm shocked to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's not all the time, and it's not with all of them, but sometimes. And it's a lot of times with these new environments that we're creating, you're creating a new culture. And some teachers have been teaching the same way for 30 years, and their thought is don't fix it if it's not broken. But eventually they see the value, and they start to come around a little bit. And it's usually just initially when they're
well, I'm sure it changes. Amy and I talk about it all the time. It changes your role as a teacher when the kids are sitting in areas that aren't necessarily all in rows facing the front, right? Well, it's not the sage on the stage anymore. You know, if they're working and able to sit on the floor or sit like or stand or pace or walk or move, then suddenly you're not the center of attention. And that, you know, we all went to school where you had to pay attention, like, you know, listen to the
Yep.
directions and watch the teacher. And I don't, like, the kids don't respond to that and aren't learning in that way anymore. And the workforce isn't like that. I mean, it just isn't. And so I know that in my library, as we started to change some of the space, that was exactly what they were freaking out about. Was like, well, everyone's talking and work, and I was like, yeah, but stop and listen. What are they talking about? They're not talking about what they're going to do tomorrow or what happened on the soccer field. They're talking about what you want them to talk about. They're busy learning and engaging with one another in this comfortable, sort of flexible space.
Absolutely.
But it does change the space, and it does change the way that teachers interact with students, and that can be uncomfortable. I mean, change can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, we actually, kind of a funny story, where one of my school districts was looking to purchase some new individual student desks, and we put together a couple samples for them to actually put in the classroom. The district wanted to pick one of the more, what they thought to be progressive teachers. And she had some negative pushback at first, and it kind of spread through word of mouth throughout the rest of the school. So we pulled them out, put them in another school without any negative vibes, and they loved it. And after implementing it throughout the district, it all went over very well. So it was just that the one initial negative pushback to change, but they got through it. So.
Well, and change can be uncomfortable. I mean, I don't, you know, our jobs, both Amy and mine, is helping teachers sort of change their curriculums and change their delivery style and change the way that they are interacting with students. And it's a very hard job to do that because people, like you're saying, feel like, well, I'm being very successful. My students are achieving. Why would I change? And so it's the same thing with the learning spaces. I mean, I think once they get over that initial sort of dissonance of uncomfortableness, I think that they see the engagement in the students and they see amazing things coming from them, whereas before they may have felt like it was successful, but it wasn't successful in the sense that it wasn't as engaging as it could have been. I mean, it could always be better. And so I'm sure that that's exactly what you're seeing too when it comes to changing the environment, because it is tough. Like, teachers are kind of into power and into structure and into routine. And, you know, once the students aren't necessarily organized or sitting in a space that is organized to focus on the teacher, that does shift the way that the learning happens, for sure.
Absolutely, because what's their scale for success? You know, are they engaging 90% of the students? Because that's the majority. But when you could create an environment where you can capture that whole, that remaining 10% by offering some different styles and ways of working,
Well, and like one of the things that Amy and I have been talking about and certainly learning about through doing this show and talking to experts like you is that that's exactly it. It's like, I think we aim education at the majority of kids, and we're really happy with when the majority of kids in your classroom or the majority of kids in your classroom or school are achieving. But, if you just make some small tweaks and some small changes, like you're saying, for the kids who maybe be the fringe ones, and offer them a situation where they can pace or they can bounce or they can lean and jiggle on a chair, then suddenly you've accessed a kid just with a simple piece of furniture that maybe you wouldn't have ever accessed before. And for us, that's been a huge learning. And like every teacher that I talk to who has tried a sample that's been brought to my school or tried a sample at a conference and seen how kids interact with it, they're like amazed by how the furniture can meet the needs of a kid that they may not have known what to do with before.
Yep.
It's kind of amazing. So,
well, and I was looking at your website and just kind of, browsing around and seeing how you guys help people who want to get to this level. So you guys have the expertise, the creativity, and the knowledge to kind of bring this, thought process, get the project going. So I know we've talked with other people who have said, oh yeah, you can head down to the merchandise mart and you can kind of shop around and see what's out there, but not everybody can get into the merchandise mart. You have to know a vendor, you have to have a connection, so to say. But you guys, like, where does a school begin if they wanted to work with you? What would they do?
Yeah, so we work with schools starting at all different levels. It's not uncommon for someone to come to me or scan a napkin drawing of a classroom layout or a desk that they liked and say, I saw something like this. Where do I find it? Or even cell phone pictures of something they saw somewhere, and I like that. Just pretty much contact us, give us a call, and we can really get you off the ground running. At no matter what stage in the game you're at. So, like I said, very basics, drawings, images, whatever. That's how some people come to us. Whether it's just a purpose or functionality. Some people come to us and say, hey, I've got this classroom that's this size. I want to be able to do this with this many kids. What products are out there to help me achieve that? And we can start the brainstorming process and start showing them some ideas. From there, on those smaller skills, we go up to large-scale projects, complete build-outs. We have 4 in-house designers that are capable of all size projects. We also work with most of the large architect and design firms around the Chicagoland area. So there's really not a size or scope of the project that we won't be happy to help you out with. One thing I'd like to offer is Steelcase is one of our main lines. We do represent about 300 or 400 different manufacturers, but Steelcase is one of our main lines of furniture we represent. And to give you an idea, Steelcase does themselves internally does more research on how people work themselves than almost any other office furniture company in the industry combined. So what they have is these some awesome presentations that we put on for a lot of architects and design firms to help them continue their education. It's mostly a lot of the insight that Steelcase comes up with from the research, but we've got some kind of dialed down versions that we're willing to provide for you guys, whether it's at your school, at our showroom. We can tailor it to a certain project or a certain need. Sometimes we'll do it with only one staff member. We'll do it with a group of 30 to kind of get that culture change flowing and so forth, and get people all thinking in the forward direction. So yeah, I guess I'd say give us a call, shoot us an email, and either one, and we'll take it from there. We'll help guide you through the process.
What if there's a school that is interested, but maybe they don't have the money? Maybe, do you have any ideas or suggestions that you could give to the audience? And I know I even had put on to the audience members. What is there ways or creative suggestions of how to get the funding?
Yeah, I haven't been too involved in that. I talk to people on what they're doing a little bit. Some people, I'll help them create budgets. So if you put your dream classroom together, if you will, and I could do some basic pricing for you and help put together some budgets so that you can work on funding projects, maybe over the next year or two to reach that goal. We offer 3D renderings, which sounds so simple, but if you could put it on paper and people can really visualize it, it really helps with fundraising projects and putting committees together and that sort of thing. There's a few other options. There's leasing or finance options out there. Leasing sounds scary to most people because they think they're going to end up paying more than what the furniture is actually worth, but we have quite a few customers that get approved at 0%. We also can tailor it over, a 2-year, 5-year, 7-year, so that helps out with people's cash flow. We do use a lot of educational purchasing contracts, so it guarantees a lot better pricing than if I were to sell to like a corporate customer or a non-education customer, and that also helps with the bid process because a lot of it's been pre-bid or pre-negotiated. I don't have too much insight on how to move forward with some of those fundraising programs and so forth, but they are out there, and a lot of people are trying to come up with their version of it. So
Alex, do teachers do you ever get calls like just from a teacher who's kind of inspired and wants to do something with their classroom, or is it usually a district level or administrative level, curriculum and design person who contacts you? Like who do you usually get the first call from in a district?
It's different on every case. It really is. Sometimes I'll just get a teacher calling me saying, I want an interactive whiteboard. What do you have? I've got this much money somehow, to spend on one. I got approved. Can you show me something? It's a 1 or 2 line item product for one classroom. Other times I got teachers come to me, I want to do this, I want to present it to my board. What are some ideas that you can come up with? What's a budget? Where would it fall? I want to approach my dean or my principal or a person in charge of curriculum, but I want to get the ball rolling on my own. Other times we'll have administration or higher level staff come in, and we'll start the conversation before the teachers get involved, just in an effort to prevent too many cooks in the kitchen, or even getting people's hopes up to something they might not necessarily to achieve to the level that we're initially talking. We might have to take baby steps to get there. But people come to me. I work with sometimes it's buildings and grounds. Staff members. It's a lot of times they'll put teachers on. A group of teachers will form a committee and they'll spearhead a project. So the staff is out until the very end when it comes down to the approval process. So it's really, no two projects are the same on really who I'm working with, but they come to us on all levels.
That's so cool. See, I guess part of what our mission is, right, AIM, is to help people see, we're just regular classroom people, and we've been able to change some of our learning spaces through, piecemeal. You've had a better, more exciting kind of huge project. I'm still working on mine. I have some space that's been redesigned, and I'm constantly pushing and plugging. But it doesn't have to be like a huge big project to be able to start the learning process and to see what else is out there. And I think that's why ICE was so huge this year, and I hope that ISTE and other conferences, teacher conferences in particular, take a page out of their book, because for real, like you and I saw, Alex, you were right there. You saw all these teachers get all lit up because they had never even seen some of the things that we had on display in the PLM Plaza, and they were able to sit on it and bounce and move around, and it changed even their own conversations with their own peers. And I feel like that's what the magic is like, so just reach out. If you want to change your classroom and you know that there's something else, reach out to people like Alex, because they can help you learn and see what is out there, because it's amazing. It's so much richer than what's in a catalog.
Yeah, just start the introduction process, and if you start to learn the thought process behind why some things are designed the way they are, or why you lay certain things out the way you do, and it really turns the light bulbs on and gets people thinking, starts making more sense.
I mean, for sure.
What would you say is one of your hot sellers right now? What are a lot of classrooms moving towards, and why do you think that is? What do you seem to be putting a lot of orders in for?
I know I keep saying it, but no two projects are really the same. So there's really not a handful of these exact chairs are the ones that we're putting in most of our schools, or these exact tables. But it sounds funny, but anything with casters nowadays, whether it's
flexible, movable,
yeah, anything with casters,
and easy to roll.
Yep, chairs, desks, tables, even teachers' desks. There's no front really to a classroom anymore, so the teacher's desk needs to be, wheeled from one side of the room to the other sometimes, or even just pushed out of the way to get out of the way. Even a lot of the monitors or the TV displays, sometimes they're mounted on the wall. They're on mobile carts nowadays, and not because they're renting them from the, or checking them out from the library. It's because they're permanent to that environment, but they're on that side of the room one day, then they're on that, another side of the room the other day. So anything with casters is our most popular items. If chairs aren't going to have casters, then they're usually lightweight but yet durable and easy to stack or move. I am seeing a good amount of two-person tables in the classrooms, classrooms or libraries, because they allow you to do your test taking and your traditional classroom settings, but by spinning them around and bumping them together, you can now make a group of 4. Or a long conference room type, boardroom type setup. I put them end to end. So a lot of team tables, or 2 to 4 person tables we're seeing. And from a technology standpoint, yeah, what was that?
Well, I was just going to say, so the bar holding them in on one side, that's no longer cool?
No, I don't even know if I have somewhere to get those.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. From a technology standpoint too, a lot of the projectors are going away. Projectors were really popular for a while, and especially with the interactive whiteboards, but even I'm starting to see some interactive whiteboards go away. A lot of the price of monitors has come down so much that a lot of people are looking into putting bigger, brighter displays on the wall and not have to worry about casting shadows with projectors and so forth. So.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I've had some teachers say, well, should we write a grant for an interactive whiteboard? And I'm like, that's going away. That's still the teacher's tool. It's not the kid's tool. It's still kind of the teacher's
Kids don't ever get to play with it or use it.
Yeah, the idea behind a lot of the interactive whiteboards originally was to get students out of their chair, to have them take the stylus and go up there and write, and some did and some do, but it's such a learning process to learn some of those. There's a big software packages involved, and if teachers are rotating classrooms and someone loses the pen and then it goes and ends up in someone's closet. But with the cost of displays come down so much, and there's some nice ones out there that you can treat as interactive whiteboards, as well as standalone computers and so forth, that's definitely becoming more of a trend. So.
That's so cool.
Very nice.
So Alex, so the space is no longer physical. We've talked about that, like how you're talking about how even the teacher desk needs to be on casters. But it also incorporates the virtual. How do your products address those kinds of demands?
Yeah, well, aside from collaboration, technology is definitely one of our biggest topics. And furniture really needs to be able to support it, and it could be as simple as giving people a place to plug in, whether it's for power or for audio, video connections to get to that display in their classroom or to get to that projector in the library or so forth, and also to make sure people are comfortable while they're using their technology. Technology now is a lot more mobile and flexible, so if someone's sitting at a desk, you want to make sure that the chair is comfortable, the desk is at the right height, give them that change in posture, give them that standing surface they can work at, but yet have power so they can plug in. So, and that that's the simple way of looking at it, but they really do go hand in hand. I mean, we have most of our lounge chairs nowadays, they're putting power in them somewhere so people can plug in a tablet or a computer in the side or underneath or so forth. So they're definitely blending.
Very funny.
So what would you say, what are you guys as IFB? How are you guys reaching out to to schools? So what is your company doing to help refresh this idea of learning spaces being redesigned?
Yeah, I try and keep it as casual as possible. A lot of times people come to us or they get referred to us. I definitely rely a lot on word of mouth, but I'll keep it as casual as just a one-on-one, visit the school, meet with somebody who's got an idea, walk the space, see what it might be. From there, we try and get people out to our space. We can order samples or put together mock-ups, furniture mock-ups for the products that you might be looking at purchasing. And as I mentioned, that those presentations that we offer with some of the research and the feedback that we've received is another great approach where we can offer to do that at a school or at our facility or so forth. So.
Okay. So there's definitely ways for people to plant the seed, and get it going. Even if it's the teacher who has the idea and they want to take it to administration and say, hey, here's something that we could do and work from there. And have you had any?
One of my most successful tools is our samples and our test drives. We've invested a good amount of money in samples, and we're more than happy to drop them off, show you how to use them, bring a piece of marketing material with it, and let you kick the tires on it for a period of time, whether it's a couple days, a couple weeks. I've got some schools that try out chairs for months at a time. So that's another way to really kind of get your feet wet before diving in. If people are going to make the leap, they're not sure if it's really going to work for them, and they want that assurance. We do offer a variety of test drive programs as well.
Yeah, I think that's key to know that they can get a sample and try it out, like you said.
Because it again, we keep saying this, but I don't think most teachers and most principals and even some of the people who work in the admin actually even understand what is even available and how the furniture is changing and how flexible it really can be until they actually sit on it and see kids interact with it. It's kind of amazing. Whenever I get a sample, I can barely keep people, everyone's crowding around it. They're asking all kinds of questions, and then the kids are wanting to try it out, and then I'll let it go to whatever classroom for a little while, and then they'll come back and they'll be like, Mrs. Smith, this was so cool, or I didn't like, at first I thought it was cool, but then it kind of hurt my abs, or it was too hard, or, they're really good about they're really aware of what's going on in their bodies and how it affects the way that they're thinking. So the more you have experience with samples, I think you're right, Alex, like that's really where people are going to get it. Like they're going to start to see the power of it.
Yeah, and quite often I'll have someone that's on our website or was on the internet and saw a particular chair, and they'll call me up, do you have a sample I could see? And absolutely, or I'll try and get my hands on one, and I'll bring it out, and I'll grab a couple other similar products that,
right.
that either support what they're looking at or are very similar to the exact product they're looking at that they called me for originally, and then it really sparks interest because you're going beyond what they know, and they want to see more. That you start sparking interest throughout other areas of the school. Admin or other teachers or students or whatever it might be.
And I think you're right. Like that, I think the reason most schools seem to be going with their learning center or their library is because that affects most kids. Like teachers are always coming in and out of that space, and they don't have to like accept the change in their own classroom right away. Like they can go and test it out in the library, or they can go and test it out in the LMC, and like just do exactly what you're talking about. Like just give it a test drive, kick the tires, and see how they feel about it. And I mean, that's kind of my hope for our space. I'm still working on it, but
we're even doing portions of libraries. I'll get
right.
a wing or an area. We want to start here and then branch out. And then sometimes we'll say, hey, they'll come back to us for phase 2 and say, these products were awesome. They got utilized the most. These didn't, maybe for this particular reason, and we can tweak that aspect of it and really hammer it out for the next phase. So.
Oh, that's so neat. Well, Alex, I mean, you've worked in the corporate world for a while, like, working with corporate clients. How do corporate clients and educational clients differ? Like, where do you see the difference?
Well, the education ones are younger. But, there are some differences. Just, corporations are doing a lot more meeting spaces. Where you're doing, a meeting space accommodate 2 people, 4 people, 8 people in closed door areas. Mm-hmm. Where education, those are mostly in open spaces, and you create space division using some other design components. But they're very, very similar, and that's kind of why it was an easy transition for me, because the workforce is mobile, students are mobile, teachers are mobile. Technology is huge in both worlds. Yeah, there's definitely more similarities, I think, between the two than there are differences.
Well, that makes me feel really good. I was afraid you'd say the opposite.
No, it's surprisingly not. The way people interact can be a little different, but they're very, very similar.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, I'm kind of jealous. Sounds like you have a pretty cool job.
Yeah, I enjoy it. When I was in college, I didn't think I'd end up doing it, that's for sure, but.
So did you get a degree in design, or is it just something you're passionate for?
No, I actually don't do any of the design myself, so I rely on my designers for that. My background is actually graphic design and business management, and then.
Oh, so furniture naturally that works in.
Yeah, they go hand in hand perfectly. So I started with IFB doing their graphic design, and as technology became more apparent, I've always just kind of had a desire and an interest in technology, so I started picking up those products, and then from there, supporting some of the other furniture salespeople with technology and with their customers, and then it got to a point I was becoming a little bit more of a resource for them, so they made me the offer to get into the sales myself. So that's how I kind of evolved there.
Really cool. Well, and I know, because you got to kind of keep up with what's going on with furniture and all that, and they always have, the NeoCon, which is coming up in June. Is that something that you take part in?
Absolutely. NeoCon, I always tell people, it's kind of like the auto show of commercial furniture. So people come from all over. Coming up either now through till when NeoCon is, most of the showrooms will be shutting down, and they will be setting up that's when they debut their new products and a lot of their new designs and so forth. So there's, it's all different styles from corporate to healthcare to education. It's very cool. It's very exciting to see, but it can be overwhelming. We are happy to host anybody or any school or group of people at NeoCon. I'd set up a time, walk you through a couple showrooms if you like, or one of my colleagues would. We know the space, we know most of the showrooms that are there, so we can get a quick feel for what you might be looking to see and give you some direction. Just let us know.
And you have to have it's not open to the public, NeoCon.
You can register. Yeah, you can sign up. You can go on the website and register. It really is open to the public.
It is, okay.
You do have to register though, and actually I would recommend registering now or as soon as possible. I want to say June, there's a $25 registration fee, and I think it's free right now. So if you get the chance, go online, Google it, look it up, and if you'd like us to take you around, we'd be happy to do so.
Cool. Oh, that's so cool. Well, last year, Amy and I had just started the show, and we were like, oh, we totally have to go to NeoCon, and we just couldn't get it organized. But this year, we're totally going.
Making it happen, Jennifer Smith.
We're making it happening. It's going to happen.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's busy, but it's a lot of fun.
No, I'm really excited. So, anyway, this is the shout-outs and feedbacks portion of the show, so please, Alex, don't walk away. This is important stuff. We just wanted to, I personally have been listening to the EdReach podcast on my commute. And that sounds terrible that I'm only now listening to the EdReach podcast, but I have made a commitment since, I think I'm into my third week of every single day listening to a new EdReach podcast as I drive to work. And, I'm a big NPR girl, so I was kind of a little worried about giving up my NPR for EdReach. And actually, I have to tell you, and I recommend it to anyone who's listening, if you subscribe to the EdReach podcast through either iTunes or Stitcher or there's one more and I can't think of it right now, just through the EdReach website, you can get really great information. And some of them are like a minute, 4 minutes long. Like I've really been enjoying the Ed Admin Minute, and it's literally like about 2 minutes, and it gives you like a little tip or trick. I also love Mission Mondays, which is two guys who, I can't think of their names right now, but they have such great ideas about changing and turning your classroom or your school or even your own thoughts into sort of positive twists on things, and they give you sort of a mission for each week. So it's really inspiring, and if you're, this time of year, I feel like teachers get a little bit down, and especially here in the Chicagoland area, the weather here has been a little tricky, and Mission Mondays has definitely gotten me through the last 3 weeks.
Sam and Mark on Mission Monday.
Yes, it's fantastic. And then the other one I've really, really been enjoying is Ed Gamer with Jerry James and Zach Gilbert. And part of what I think is neat about the EdReach podcast in general is that it's not that these are new ideas. It's not that we're coming up with this new sort of twist on education. We're talking about things that work, and we're talking about things that are really motivating to kids and really engaging to kids. And, as educators, we're sharing our great ideas, and it's almost like going to the staff room in the days when, you could sit around the staff room and everyone had lunch together and you would share fun ideas or work on projects or feed off each other. That's what EdReach has been for me for the last couple of weeks. And so my shout out is totally to the other EdReachers out there. Like, this is an amazing thing that we have going, and I think we all should be listening to each other's podcasts. That was my very long shout out. Also,
good. Paying it forward. That's good because it's true.
Alex, I don't know if you've heard of this or gone to it. This is new to me. There's the Ed Spaces show, and I think it's like NeoCon, but like much, much larger. And it's in Tampa, Florida this year, which does sound nice right now, although it's in October, so it'll still be nice here in Chicago in October for sure. Have you heard of it, Alex? Ed Spaces?
I don't, other than the document you sent me earlier this week. But,
so it looks like it might be NeoCon, but on a larger national scale. So I thought, if someone was interested or, lived in the Tampa area, maybe that would be something that would be interesting to look at.
Oh, yeah.
And then Amy and I are super excited to be attending ISTE this year for the very first time.
Yes.
And we are hoping that ISTE will take a page out of ICE's book, and set up and organize so that there are lots of different furniture, flexible spaces, designers and or furniture salespeople there, sort of displaying and letting teachers and people sit on there and try out and kick the tires, like Alex would say, kick the tires of the new furniture and things that are out there. Because really, I think this is just like Amy and I have been talking about. We're really at a point where teachers are starting to really embrace this idea of not being the sage on the stage anymore, and really truly being a facilitator. And with that comes the need to move and be able to have a classroom that is physically movable. Like, because the classrooms that I work in right now, like literally you can't make pods, because if you make the pods, the kids can't get out or get in, because there's that metal bar. So it's really impossible. So the kids end up like not even sitting on the desk. They're sprawled all over the floor. They're in the hall. They're, sitting on top of the desks with their feet on the chairs. And, not every teacher loves that. And so, I really hope that ISTE will have some of that kind of space that we had at the Illinois Computing Educators Conference, because it really did light the fire under so many teachers and so many principals. I just thought it was amazing. So, Alex, thank you so much for bringing your stuff there. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you guys.
We're glad to have you. So, all right. Well, if this show is
Amy, do you have any long shout
I
out?
don't. I'm trying to keep the show under an hour, and we're like right there at the tipping point. So I'm gonna wrap us up. And two, because I'm like, I'm getting that cold, and my head is so full right now. So if there's any kinds of shows in the future or past shows that you guys want to hear, make sure that you are subscribing to edreach.us. And there are multiple channels out there that you can find. Ours is at the LRD, or the Learning Redesign channel. Don't forget to download the Stitcher app and subscribe on iTunes, and you can have even EdReach emails sent to you via email if that's your way as well, by going to edreach.us/newsletters. Good stuff is out there. We are in a digitally connected world, and you no longer just have to get your info from the library. So thanks for getting excited and innovative on furniture here on EdReach, Learning Redesign. I'm Amy Lamberti, and I can be found on Twitter at Amy Lamberti, which is just AMYLAMBERTI. And Jennifer Smith is not on Twitter at JSmith. She would be at J McLaurin, which is JMACLAURIN. Because Smith,
and no one can laugh, but if you were named Jennifer Smith, well, I'm Jennifer Smith, my marriage, obviously, but you can't just be Jennifer Smith on Twitter. You would have to be like Jennifer Smith 19,099. So J McLaurin is who I am in most places, on Pinterest, on Digo, on everywhere, because that's my maiden name.
And Alex, if somebody wanted to find you after this show, where would they find you?
You can go ahead and reach me on my cell phone, which is 630-715-0519, or by email. That's Carsi, CARSI, at interiorsforbusiness.com. And for is spelled out, FOR.
Awesome. Perfect. Great. Well, thank you, and that'll do it for tonight's show of EdReach Learning Redesign. Thanks for coming, everybody.